Breadbox Media programming is brought to you by introducing the redesigned CatholicSingles.com, featuring new ways that put the spotlight on the person and their faith, not just a profile picture. For the past 20 years, faithful Catholics have used CatholicSingles.com, and the reimagined CatholicSingles.com website is ready to help single Catholics take the next step in sharing meaningful relationships with other faithful Catholics. Remember, CatholicSingles.com for faith, fellowship, and love. What are you doing this Lent? The St. Paul Center is streaming their newest video Bible study for free, starting Ash Wednesday. Based on Scott Hahn's renowned covenantal theology, this is a study no one should miss. Invite your friends, Catholic or not. Don't miss your chance to see this premium study for free. Go to stpaulcenter.com to sign up today. With CMF Curo, you don't have to compromise your faith to get great health care. Finally, there is a pro-life option that respects and engages your Catholic faith with a community that supports you in living healthcare fully alive. Learn more at mycatholichealthcare.com/podcast.
Well, hey, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Lisa, Hendey, and Friends, the very long overdue podcast brought to you today without any friends. Well, in a way, I kind of have some friends, and I'll explain that later on. But first of all, I just wanted to explain my absence for the last few weeks. Those of you who are real life friends know that I have been asking for some prayers for our family. My mother, Anne, has been having some health concerns recently that have required more than a lot of my attention. And so I'm not wanting to get too much into the details right now, most of all because I'll start sobbing all over my podcast microphone, but mostly just wanted to share with you that we'd really just truly appreciate your prayers still for Mom and for my dad, Pat. My parents are just the most amazing people and have taught me so much about life and faith and the power of friendship and love over the years. And so to see my mom go through some pretty challenging health struggles right now and to be so very far away is a great challenge. I was able to be with her twice in the last about 6 weeks or so, but not able to be there right now due to some work. And I have to share that this issue of being so physically far away is probably one of the greatest challenges I've faced in my personal and spiritual life. So I guess I'm just asking you, my friends, to keep me in prayer and to let you know that I'm really doing my best to kind of go along with business as usual, but my heart is not absolutely in it. And so if you would just please keep my mom and dad, Pat and Anne, in your prayers, and especially my siblings too. One of my sisters is there kind of manning the helm, and it's a great challenge for her and her family, and I'm just so grateful for their love and support, and just asking for prayers. So that's it. That's enough of an explanation right now. Let's get into some of the thoughts that I have for today. I haven't been able to actually schedule an interview, but today, interestingly, I'm kind of, in a way, I'm sharing an interview with myself on the podcast. I'm really happy to share that since we were last together, my brand new book, I Am God's Storyteller, was launched. This is a book that is a first for me. It's my very first picture book. And the book was done in collaboration with Paraclete Press, just a simply marvelous publisher. And my creative partner on this project is very gifted illustrator, Eric Carlson. And one thing that was really fun about launch week was that I was able to head over to Catholic TV and meet up with my friends over there who helped to celebrate the launch of the book by interviewing me kind of on their flagship talk program, This Is the Day. And with the grateful permission of Bonnie Rogers over at Catholic TV, I thought it would be fun to share with you my interview with This Is the Day host Jay Fadden. So let's tune in for Jay talking with me about the new book, I Am God's Storyteller.
Connect with our good friend Lisa Hendey, and she's going to talk about her book, I Am God's Storyteller. Hey, how you been doing?
Fantastic.
So what have you been up to before we get to the book? What have you been up to?
Just traveling, seeing the world, meeting new friends, telling stories. It's just great. We moved to Los Angeles a few years ago, so settling in there too.
I know, it seems to be the Los Angeles show today.
I know.
Dude,
you brought the West Coast.
I wish we brought the Gwen from the West Coast. So tell me about this book. What is this book about?
This is a book that was inspired by school visits that I've been doing for the last few years, and it's really about each of our role as God's storyteller, as it tells, looking at storytellers in Scripture, Old and New Testament, but then kind of helping each of us, especially children, to claim our own role in that legacy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you find that kids in particular are so curious when they're told a story.
Yes. One of my nephews, every time I see him, the first thing he says to me is, Aunt Lisa, tell me a story.
Really?
And it's a tradition that we have. And I find that in conveying information, especially about our faith, oftentimes if you put it in a story context, they lean in and listen, and they ask for more. So
I love that too. You know, when you have a captive young audience, you know the difference because they're soaking it all in, and it's something that will stay with them for a long, long time.
I think so. It's a way of getting them to remember, but also for me with this, helping them to engage with that mission that each of us have. That's really important.
Was this an easy book to write?
You would think so. I seem to be regressing, so I started off with grown-up books and then chapter books and now picture books. Actually, it's a tough audience, so you don't get anything past them, but it's been a really great gift. So every word matters in a book like this.
And the illustrations are beautiful, and my wife's an artist, so I see a lot of illustrations, and I look at this and this study. Tell me about Eric.
So Eric Carlson is my illustrative partner in this, and he is a senior as we speak at the University of Notre Dame, which is my alma mater. So I love that not only the Holy Spirit, but also our Blessed Mother brought together this partnership with us, and his art just brings a whole new level to the story.
And you talked about going to schools and parishes.
Yeah.
What happens at those? What do you do when you get there, Lisa?
So when I go, I always have two messages for the children. The first is that we're each called to be a saint in the making. We're not saints yet, but we're on our path to that. And then the second part of it, that we're each God's storyteller, that we may have different gifts. Some of us do that with words or in writing, but whether you're a musician or a dancer or a singer or one who, we were talking about video games earlier, even game design, movie making, it's all a form of sharing the best news that we have to share, which is the news of God's love for us.
Why do you think it's so important that there are books about our faith out there that children can read and get excited about? Because I find today there are just so many distractions for video games, so on and so forth, and yet this is something that I think can make a difference. Why is it important that we do this?
Well, I'm a firm believer in the power of reading. Family story time was always such a great gift for our family, and those memories are very special to me. But I also think that a book like this that engages kids not only in being entertained, but also in being sent. They have a role, and they want to rise up and follow through on that mission. So that's an encouragement that we're giving them with this book.
There's a lot of things you can write about in life, but you've decided to write about your Catholic faith and share your Catholic faith. What is it that made you go in that direction? What is it about your Catholic faith?
It's a continuing journey. I think for each of us, that are so blessed to have the faith, not only living it, but also sharing it is a critical thing. And for me, writing is one of the ways that God has given me the opportunity to do that. So I'll continue to do it for as long as I can. And I think involving children and understanding that they have that same calling, whether it be, no matter what their gifts are, that God's called them in a special way.
When you talk to the children, what is the thing that attracts them, do you find? Is it pictures? Is it the story? Is it just that they actually are involved?
I think it's both, and I think that one thing that we try to do with the language in this book is to be interactive. So as a parent or a teacher is reading the book, there's some questions embedded in it, and so involving them in the format is important. But I think every child perceives things differently, which is why Eric's art complementing my words is a real gift to the book, I think. He comes at the material in his own way, from a different perspective than mine, and the end result is beautiful.
You said that every word was important. And I know for writers in particular, they keep doing it over and over and looking at it. And was that part of your process? Did
yes.
you write, rewrite? But it's part of you. And I know this from talking with other writers of children books, that it can be very difficult to just get exactly what you mean on that paper. Is it hard?
It's really hard. And I'll tell you, the first lines of this book were actually born in the backseat of my mom and dad's minivan. We were on a road trip, the three of us. And I just had this idea that came to me, and I grabbed my journal, which I always have with me, and I started penning it out. And I wrote probably the first 2 or 3 pages there in the car that day, which have stayed pretty much true to what I wrote that day. And, my prayer in writing is always that it be God's words, that I cooperate with his plan. And I'm just so happy with what we've created for families.
And we're running out of time, but it's, you talk about Eric, the artist, you, the writer, and there's one picture in particular right here that he interpreted a little bit differently, or?
Absolutely. We're talking in that photo about Mary's role as a storyteller and Jesus growing up in this home in Nazareth. Eric illustrated this image with the grapes and bread, the hammer and nails, which are things that you might find in a home in Jesus' time, but also a foreshadowing of the gifts of the Eucharist and the resurrection.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being with us. Where can people get a copy of the book, I Am God's Storyteller?
Definitely at your local Catholic bookstore, at paracletepress.com, or online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you here at Catholic TV. You've been a very good friend to us. Sorry that while you were here you got snow and really cold weather. Not the same as LA.
It gives a great story to tell about the trip, though. So
well, thanks again.
I am God's Storyteller. God imagined me at the dawn of all time for a very special mission: to help the world know His love. Our world needs storytellers now more than ever to fill our homes and communities with peace, love, and joy. I may be little, but I know that God made me especially for storytelling, and I know that our world needs my stories. My stories are God's stories, told my way with the imagination He gave especially to me and the love He pours into each of us.
I'm God's storyteller, and you are too. Let's go share His story of love today.
Well, thanks again to my good friends at Catholic TV for the permission to share that interview with you, to Bishop Reed and Bonnie Rogers, and especially Jay and Kevin, the hosts of the episode the day that I was on. Just so grateful for the chance to share the good news about this new project. A book like this is a while in the making, and so it's really fun now to be able to be out and around and talking about it, and you'll probably find me doing that for the next few months as our efforts to get the word out spreads. But thanks for indulging me in a little moment of self-promotion. It doesn't come easily, actually. I'd rather tell you about lots of other people's books, but I feel so strongly that this project, I Am God's Storyteller, can be a blessing for you and for the children in your life. It's funny, this last weekend I was actually speaking at a Magnificat prayer meal here in Los Angeles, and one of the women came up to me after the meal and was looking over my different books, and she gravitated towards I Am God's Storyteller and spent quite a long time reading it, and then she brought it up after she'd purchased it and asked me to sign it for the confirmation student that she's sponsoring. And I asked her about that, why she was interested. And she said, I know that this is a picture book, but it's actually so really relevant to where he is in his spiritual journey right now. And so I think it'll make a great gift for him for his confirmation. So that made me feel really terrific to be able to sign a book for him. So I guess I'm just saying that even if you don't have a young reader in your life, I hope you'll take a look at this book and maybe consider donating it to a school near you or a library near you or your parish. We're really working to get the word out because we're all God's storytellers. So I really hope the book is a blessing for those of you that have seen it. And if you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to check it out. We'll have links in the show notes for more information on how you can check out I Am God's Storyteller. And that I promise is the end of the self-promotion portion of this podcast. I really only have a little bit of extra content to share with you today. I'm going to have a review about this film over on my website probably later this week, but because this week we've just come through the Oscars, the Academy Awards, and because this particular film won the Oscar for best documentary feature, I wanted to share with you a little bit about the film Free Solo. So let's listen to the trailer real quick, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Does it feel different to be up there without a rope?
It's obviously like much higher consequence.
People who know a little bit about climbing, they're like, oh, he's totally safe. And then people who really know exactly what he's doing are freaked out.
I've thought about El Cap for years, and every year I'm like, that's really scary. I'll never be content unless I at least put in the effort. El Cap is the most impressive wall on Earth.
It's 3,200 feet of sheer granite. It's the center of the rock climbing universe.
Obviously, I get interview questions about it all the time. Oh, would you like to do that? And you're like, yes, for sure.
So you're a girlfriend now, I heard.
It was awesome. Pretty much makes life better in every way.
It's really hard for me to grasp why he wants this. But if he doesn't do this stuff, he'd regret it.
Everybody who has made free soloing a big part of their life is dead now.
I haven't been injured in 7 years. I suddenly start getting injured all the time.
What if something happens? What if I don't see him again?
I could just walk away, but it's I don't want to.
I've always been conflicted about shooting a film about free soloing just because it's so dangerous. It's hard to not imagine your friend falling through the frame to his death.
I think when he's free soloing, that's when he feels the most alive, most everything. How can you even think about taking it away from somebody?
No mistakes tomorrow.
I'm starting to get kind of psyched.
If you're pushing the edge, eventually you find the edge.
I can't believe you guys actually can watch.
Hey Jimmy, do you copy? Just started climbing.
So you've been listening to the trailer for Free Solo. This is a documentary that was released by National Geographic and now an Academy Award-winning Best Documentary of the Year. Just to let you know a little bit about the voices that you just heard, this film is from award-winning filmmakers and world-renowned photographers and mountaineers, and it's Free Solo, a stunning and intimate and unflinching portrait of this free solo climber Alex Honnold. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, as Alex prepares to achieve his lifelong dream, climbing the face of the world's most famous rock, the 3,000-foot El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, without a rope. Celebrated as one of the greatest athletic feats of any kind, Alex's climb set the ultimate standard, perfection or death. Succeeding in this challenge, Alex enters his story in the annals of human achievement. Free Solo is both an edge-of-your-seat thriller and an inspirational portrait of an athlete who exceeded our current understanding of human physical and mental potential. The result is a triumph of the human spirit. I guess it's probably not a spoiler alert to tell you that Alex survives this climb. He was there last night at the Academy Awards. But I have to say, and I'll write this up in my review that will be over at lisahendey.com, but I have to tell you, this film actually took me about 4 hours to watch because even though I knew that Alex survived the climb, I still kept having to stop my screening of it, walk away, let my blood pressure drop a little bit, and get back to watching it again a little bit later. The film is so good. I've watched it 2 times since that initial screening. And part of the amazing thing about this film is just the stunningly beautiful photography, the angles that they get, the way that they portray not only the actual free solo climb, but also Alex's preparation, his mental and physical and I'm going to say spiritual preparation to get to accomplish this, and the people who walk alongside him. You meet not only Alex's girlfriend, but also his mother and other important people in his life. And you also kind of come to a perspective on the filmmaking crew that's involved in this as well, because this was a journey shot over a couple of years. And so, the documentarians actually chime in on their feelings about the project as well. And, I think that's referenced in the trailer, and in a very poignant way, it makes you ask yourself, do I really want to tell this story? Do I really want to be here for it? And I'm glad that the filmmakers chose to do that, but there's been a lot of kind of controversy surrounding this film, and a lot of conversation too about whether or not filming something like this adds to a sport that is already incredibly risky. So I'll let you decide for yourself, but I'm going to really strongly recommend you check out Free Solo. We'll have a variety of places linked to where you can get more information about the film. And I'm giving it all kinds of thumbs up because I just really thought it was one of the best projects that I've seen this year. And I believe that the Oscar is incredibly well deserved. So check it out, Free Solo. Again, we'll have links over at lisahendey.com. Well, I'm going to stop the podcast here for this week. And again, I just want to thank you for being patient during the little break that I had to take. I honestly hope that we'll be back with a podcast next week. But if we aren't, then you can assume that's because something is happening in my life with family. And I will be back as soon as I can. I'm going to ask again for your prayers, not just for my mom, Anne, and for our family as we attempt to be her caregivers, but, really for everyone who is in health crises right now at this time in their life, especially those in our world who don't have proper medical care or loved ones who can watch over them. So just join me in praying for them. And as we close out this week's show, as always, I want to invite you to help us make this a better program for you. You can simply go over to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to the show, leave star ratings, reviews. Let me know how I can better serve you. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to just tell a friend by sharing this on social media. So until next week, my friends, God bless you along your path, and God bless your story. And thanks for being a part of mine. Have a great week, friends. See you soon.
Breadbox Media programming is brought to you by Jack Kane Ford. Find your next Ford Tough vehicle at caneford.com. CMF Curo is the country's first Catholic healthcare ministry to provide an affordable health sharing solution rooted in Catholic teaching and community. Learn more at mycatholichealthcare.com/podcast. That's mycatholichealthcare.com/podcast.